live streamers, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Go ahead and let me know I am officially live by dropping a comment in the chat. Shout out to Restream for having a chat overlay so we can see who is here. Carolyn, I am so glad you're doing a little dance in your seats. Dancing is often a sign of confidence, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. But before I bring on my very special guest, you guys know the deal. I am 𝐃𝐨𝐬, founder and managing director of Jolt Your Career, a career consulting firm that helps ambitious people just like you advance, pivot, or really focus on your career. So I am so excited for you all to be joining today. And I always like to start off with celebrating some wins as we allow some people to pop on over to the live. So today I actually want to give a shout out to my baby sister. She had worked at an organization for 5 years. She's a director of admissions, and leadership culture had begun to really change. And she thought, well, I don't know what else to do. I'm a single mom of 5 kids. They're really flexible with my kids. She just didn't really have the confidence to love herself enough, to believe in her capabilities enough to go elsewhere. There was too many scary what ifs. And she decided to bet on herself. She got an 18% raise in base. She got a 50% raise in bonus. And it has been 2 months, almost 2 months. She's going into her second month, and she has officially beat an organizational-wide admissions record, and the leadership team is having a spa day on her during business hours. So for any of you who are tuning in who might think that you don't exactly have the confidence right now to go after the career of your dreams, bet on yourself, because what happened to my sister can absolutely happen to you as well. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome the job snatcher herself, Jessica. Hello.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And shout outs to your sister. That's what confidence is all about.
Yes, I am so proud of her. So if she is tuning in, Kat, I love you. All right, Jessica. So tell these good people who you are, what you're about. You've got a really fun background that it's like, oh, cool.
Right. So as everybody knows, I am the resume finesser and job snatcher. I've done this about 4.5 years. I've come in and been very lucky, but bold and confident with this career because I left corporate at 30. I lost my mind and said, okay, let's do it. And if that's not confidence, I don't know what is. I've been fortunate enough to serve over 4,000 professionals in snatching higher salaries, somewhere around 437,000. And I'm a ball of fire. So I come in to set things up and really help people shake themselves up.
I love it. Let's go ahead and say hello to some of the people tuning in. We've got Liz. Oh, it says, hi, message from stream. Okay, well, that's not working. So we'll say good morning in a different way. We've got Lucy tuning in, and it looks like she's tuning in from your platform. So good morning. We've got Liz and Maggie and a LinkedIn user and Steven. And okay, after looking at this tiny font, because for all of you who can't see behind the scenes, I'm like, what does it say? Tanya, Elizabeth, more LinkedIn users, Erica. For all of those that I missed, I apologize, but we are so happy to have you here today. And if you have any questions, go ahead and start dropping questions in the comments. For those of you who are catching this on replay, go ahead and put #replay. So that way, if you do have any questions after the fact, we can come back and support you. So today we are going to talk about confidence, something that we all struggle with. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And unless you are a complete narcissist, have struggled with yourself. And so, Jessica, for you, how do you define confidence?
I define confidence taking that scary feeling in the pit of your stomach and turning it into your power, which means taking the lead on things that scare the heck out of yourself and just going head first, being okay with failure and allowing yourself to learn from those failures. Confidence comes from being scared.
It really does, because if there wasn't something to lose, then it would just be a mute feeling, like it would be neutral. But confidence exudes something a little bit higher than neutral. So there's got to be a risk associated with it. And so for those of you tuning in, go ahead and tell me how you feel people exude confidence. What are some traits that you feel that confident people have? For Jessica, it stems from fear. It's like you said. She said she's a ball of fire, a ball of energy, and then just believes on herself and bets on herself. And I feel like, and willing to make mistakes. And I feel like that's something that I see, especially a lot of young job seekers, or well, young professionals, and in frequently professionals who have certain cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
Confidence is exuded differently, even personality wise. Extroverts versus introverts. I know as an introvert, the way that I exude confidence is totally different than my extroverted, well, any of my extroverted peers. And so, what do you think are some ways where we can dig deep into ourselves? I mean, you're a confidence coach. You help people every single day own their confidence. So, what are some ways that somebody who maybe isn't at a point where they can invest in a coach right now, what are some of the ways that they can dig confidence out of themselves? Those weaknesses that they feel are holding them back, how do they flip that on its head and say, no, this is my superpower?
Absolutely. So once you start to identify, I say take 15 minutes out of your day and identify some of the areas that you struggle with. Don't go past 5 because then we're just rambling. But identify 5 areas that you struggle with that you could grow in, and then grab an accountability partner. Once you grab an accountability partner, you have to make sure this individual is somebody that you feel safe with, that you can communicate these flaws. That way it's easy for you, and that, make sure you pick somebody who's going to give you actionable feedback too. Don't just pick somebody who's going to say, oh, you're good, you're good. Nah, girl, I'm not good. I'm not okay. I need you here for a reason. And then set your expectation milestones. Hey, in the next month, I'm going to be able to walk with my head high, chest out when I go and speak in front of a crowd. Hey, I'm going to be able to reach out to 4 people I don't know this week just to introduce myself and network. Small goals. I would love for you to say, oh, I'm going to go out there and talk to 5,000 people. Bet. But let's start small. Let's make sure that we are setting up attainable goals. That way we can feel it's a happiness that you feel when you attain some of these goals.
Yeah.
So set them up with your accountability partner. I know one of my partners is in here, Ashlyn. She holds me accountable. The days I don't feel confident, I'll get that text, I'll get that message on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, let me shake it off. You know, you're 5'5" with the confidence of a 6'2" person. So keep it up. That's what helps me. So if you're just starting to figure out, like, hey, there's areas I want to work on as far as my confidence, here's what I'm going to do. Write out those 5 areas that you want to work on, grab your accountability partner, and get to work.
I love that. I think it's really important that you don't go about things by yourself. I think as human beings, we're ingrained to be social creatures. Even as an introvert, you still need to have somebody that has your back, because at times when we cannot, it's incredibly difficult to read the label when you're inside the jar. And so before every live, it's really hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. So if like at work, for example, there's people who are quiet. There's people who do amazing work, but they don't speak up in meetings. Now, could be 2 things. It could be a toxic culture and they know that their opinion's not going to be appreciated anyways. But if you're in a functional workplace, then maybe that person just doesn't feel like they own a spot at that table to speak up. And what happens is if that accountability partner is in that room with you and you're the one not speaking up, that person can say, hey, Jessica, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And inviting you to speak without you having to be, a little bit on the extroverted side to speak up yourself, or to force you to come out of your comfort zone and live into your confidence. Well, this is what I think. And when you start identifying, like Jessica said, those areas where maybe you do want to be a little bit more aggressively confident or work on your confidence, that those things that you already have noticed in yourself that you want to do, but sometimes it takes an outside person looking in to see those things. Before this live, I was telling Jessica, I'm petrified before every live. I hate doing lives. I hate public speaking because I have a speech impediment. And so I'm always self-conscious about how I articulate myself. And that's a lack of confidence. And so I force myself to do it, even though it would be a lot easier not to do it. So Jessica, what are some of the tips that you have for viewers to get outside of their comfort zone? I know I have something worthy of saying and something that is valuable for others to hear that can help them have a better life, but it takes me getting outside of my comfort zone to do it. Each and every single one of us have a secret sauce that deserves to be shared. So what are some tips that you would have to force someone to come out of that?
Okay, so some tips. So the first thing I would say is you have to recognize your value. And the first way you do that is setting up your career affirmations or your affirmations as a professional. I like to write 3 every day. They change. Sometimes they're the same if I'm really struggling. Like doing lives, for a while I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm not going to do it. People will see me when they see me. But recognizing that there is information, this ball of fire needs to ignite somebody else's passion. So you have to show up. Make sure that you are writing your career affirmations and then check yourself every week. Have a check-in with yourself. Sometimes, I'll admit it, sometimes I talk to myself because I need real advice. And I know I'm going to give myself real advice. Check in with yourself. Check in to see, hey, did I meet these goals? Did I talk to 4 people this week? Was I able to go to work, acknowledge my manager, and let them know I have concerns? At our last meeting, did I bring up any ideas that I have? If not, don't be too hard on yourself. Just make sure you add them to your goals for the next week. It takes a lot of discipline to come out and be more confident. Believe it or not.
Does.
You
It takes a lot of healing. You can't just show up one day and decide, I want to have better relationships with my partner. That takes you healing yourself to be able to go and be that person that you want to be. And that's such a complicated and long process for some people that it is a long-term goal, not only short-term goals. But I love what you said in the beginning of this. So if you're just tuning in now, be sure to rewatch the beginning. Jessica mentioned celebrating those small wins, not just having these big grandiose goals, celebrating small wins, having manageable goals where it's, okay, I want a new job and I know applying online isn't getting me any place. And everybody keeps saying, I need to talk to people at the companies I want to work at. So instead of saying, okay, I'm going to talk to, the director that's hiring, I'm going to talk to one person that just works at that company. And so you can start off, with low risks and work your way up from there. And as you're working your way up, as you're taking the stairs instead of the escalator, you will build that grit, that resiliency, that courage, and then that confidence to really go after what you want.
You're absolutely right.
We got a question. Okay, so we've got a question from Marcus who says, is it okay to ask an employer or recruiter why they were not accepted for a specific position? Okay, so confidence when you're on your job search. Is it confidence to speak up and to say, I deserve to understand. I just went through 8 interviews. Why did I get ghosted? Why didn't I get selected? Or I based on the value that I can bring this organization, I deserve this compensation. So what do
Right.
you think, Jessica? Is it appropriate to really stand up for yourself in the interview process? And where does it go from being confident to being disrespectful?
Hell yeah, you should ask. Like you said, if I went through 8 interviews, I went through your recruiter, I went through your hiring manager, now I'm going through everybody else. I need to understand why I wasn't selected so I can figure out how to adjust that in my next interview. And I feel like that's a fair exchange. If
Yeah.
you are okay with saying, you know what, you went through all of this, but you still weren't it, I need to know what the missing component was. So on my next company and my next interview, I kill those areas
Yep.
because there's nothing that I'm doing wrong. It's just maybe I'm doing something differently that needs to be redirected or re-engineered. It gets disrespectful if you keep reaching out. Look, I give you 1, maybe 2. 2 is pushing it. After you do that initial reach out, you can't have expectations of them to reach back out to you. So make sure that you keep that at bay. But anything beyond 2 outreaches, you're doing too much. Because then, you
Yeah.
know what?
Do
It's
not
not.
text your recruiter every day. I got somebody who texts me all day long, every day, even when I had a family emergency and I told them about it last week. Stop doing that.
Yes. Stop doing
It,
it and have respect. Remember that we're people too.
yep.
No, I don't want to deliver this news to you because I know it sucks. I respect you as a professional and a person, but I need you to do the same for me, especially
Yes.
if I give you the good grace of telling you why I'm absent or why I'm not responding.
And to be fair to any job seeker that's tuning in right now, oftentimes we do get ghosted in the process
Yes,
because recruiters are juggling so much. Oftentimes, just
absolutely.
something has to give because when you're managing 50 recs, there's 100 to 1,000 people applying to each one. You're going through, at any given time, different phases of interviewing across all of these 20, 30, 40, 50 recs with all
Yep.
these different stakeholders. Sometimes it can take time. So if they said that they're going to get back to you, or all of a sudden you receive an automatic rejection email with no type of explanation, go ahead and reach back out. And then if you don't hear anything 2 weeks, go ahead and do a tickler. Go ahead and say,
Mhm.
just wanted to follow up. I understand some companies' policies there, they can't give any, feedback um, on why I didn't particularly get this role. But based on your interaction with me, is there any advice that you can give for pursuing opportunities here in the future? I just had a teacher in transition do this for a role at Amazon. And the reason why they gave her a rejection is because she didn't have experience on their LMS that they use, which, okay, fine. I think it's learnable and like a
Yeah,
cop out.
you could touch it. If I can learn it, if I can touch it, I can learn it. You have to be willing to give me the opportunity, though.
And as job seekers, we have to be prepared that we're going to get some of this candid BS feedback back because recruiters care so deeply about people. Otherwise, they wouldn't do that job. So they want to give you something back, but it might just be that somebody else had that experience and it was just easier to get them up and running right away. But here's the thing, people. Sometimes rejection is because there's something better coming for you. And what happened to this client is she ended up getting a position at a smaller ed tech company, 3 bands higher, working on the same software. And should she want to eventually leave this company, she could always go back because now she's got the experience. But the culture here is such a better fit. And so when you're on your job search, if you're feeling like your confidence is getting low because you feel like a punching bag, just
Mhm.
remember there are actionable things that you can do to improve your professional brand,
Yep.
improve your interview acumen, and improve the companies that you're targeting so it is a better fit for you, because at the end of the day it has to be a two-way street.
Absolutely. You hit that on the head. It's so important to just be able to get the opportunity so that you can learn. And
Yeah.
yes, a lot of these things suck. There are jobs that I've wanted and I can't get because I don't have a degree, but I've talked my way into 6-figure roles just based off of personal branding, professional
Yep.
branding. So making a difference in your approach can make a world of difference, salary wise, education wise.
Absolutely. So, Jessica, the next question is, how do you balance speaking out to others when you're a direct person? Some people may take offense. Okay, so I think that this is a great question for both of us
Yes.
because we both have a very straightforward approach, and we're both women who, and sometimes women, especially women of color, get labeled as a bitch. Like it
Yes.
just that's
There's
how.
no way around it.
Yep, yep. And so, Jessica, what about from you? How would you say, being such a direct person, how do you balance that?
So you hit the nail on the head. And I'm always going to say this because being a woman of color, being a Black woman in corporate, people expect you to candy coat your approach. Now, is there a balance to it? Not necessarily, because I don't believe that you need to reshape your delivery because somebody doesn't know how to take it. But I will say, having these moments of checking yourself, like, hey, was my delivery still respectful? Was my delivery still purposeful? I can't gauge your emotional intelligence. I can't gauge your sensitivity, or I can't gauge how you like to take information. But what I can gauge is how I deliver it, what my purpose was, and did I execute effectively?
Yeah.
After that, it's all you. I cannot change how I approach giving information. And I do get that. And sometimes it's okay to ask the person that you're talking to, like, hey, you know what? How did you receive that?
Yep.
Was that not your language? Maybe give me some insight to how you like to be, communicated with. That's
I
if
think
I
that's
can.
really important. I think
Yeah.
that building relationships with your peers
Yes.
reduces so many communication issues because
Yes.
if I feel that you have my back and you tell me something, even if it's a little out of pocket, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to take it that you were coming to me with a place of love. I had a
Yeah.
conversation with somebody this morning. Well, I texted someone this morning. He was like, I
Yep.
feel attacked. Where is this coming from? And I reminded him, I'm sorry you feel attacked. This is coming from a place of love because I frequently say things that I don't realize have unintended consequences. And I hear how passionate you are about making sure you represent yourself in an XYZ fashion. And because of that, you may not realize that those core principles that you hold so dear and to you, that your say-do ratio with some people is being impacted because
Yes.
the way that was communicated um, was misinterpreted. And so
Yes.
sometimes you need to make sure that you have strong relationships, or that when you say things that you realize the ears around. Because I, like in the last role I had, one of the directors, Brittany, me and her had a fantastic relationship,
Mhm.
and me and her could have private conversations in ways that we authentically speak. But if we were to speak to other people like that, it would be a problem. And
Yeah.
so when you're having conversations, sometimes you have to be aware of how other people might take it and judge you for it because you don't yet have a relationship with them. Because if
Yes.
somebody's thinking, wow, the way you just delivered that was brutal, I don't trust you, my guard is up. And if you ever
Yeah.
say anything to me, I'm going to take it that you're just being rude. Where if they knew you, that wouldn't be the case. And when people get to know you, they understand your mannerisms.
Yes.
And I mean, it's like any relationship, right? Like if I wake up in the morning, my husband knows, do not speak to me. Give me my space. But it doesn't take away how much I care about him. And that's just
Right.
sometimes what's understood doesn't have to be said. And when you
Hear
get
you.
on that level with people, it's so much better.
And then you also have to be open to the feedback. My partner,
Yes.
sometimes we talk about business things and he was like, oh, that's brutal. And I'm like, okay, so let me redirect my approach. Let me give it a little sugar. Let me put a little sugar on it, as my friend Ebony would say. So that way you receive it how I need you to.
Yeah.
So it just
Yeah.
it just depends. That was a good question.
I absolutely agree, and I wish more leaders would think about it. Like as coaches, we know
Yes.
sometimes it's better to ask questions and
Yes.
listen to how the person is answering the question so we can get on their level.
Yes.
Because as leaders, and I'm not sure what position the person was in, but if you're in a position of leadership, whether that be title or influence, sometimes a more effective way to build our teams up and build our peoples up is by asking good questions and
Yes.
then helping them through their gaps in understanding of situations. and
Yes.
and then people are thirsty to learn and get better and want to have mentorship and sponsorship. And when you can foster that empowering continuous learning type of environment,
Yeah.
man, magic happens on teams. And
It
like,
really does.
I
But you
mean,
also have to be
mhm.
comfortable asking the uncomfortable questions. As a
Yep.
leader in those rooms, you have to be prepared for people to tighten up when you ask your question, but know that it's with good intent.
Yeah. And give people space. Give people
Yes.
space to think about what you said or what you asked so they can have an opportunity to let down their guard, because communication is such a tricky thing, which is why when we're talking about confidence, a lot of time people's perception of your confidence is based on how you talk, based on how you sit, based on how you interact with others. So communication is really tied in closely with confidence. I mean, people will mistake my ability to go up and speak to thousands of people as public speaking confidence. No, that is heart-centered giving,
Yeah.
not confidence. And so one outweighs the other. So sometimes our why can impact, certain confidence as well. So let's see this next question. How do you simultaneously confidently build your personal brand while maintaining a full-time role without causing conflicts between the two responsibilities? So building
Hmm.
your brand, gaining confidence.
I feel like they're hand in hand, right? If I'm building my brand, then you're going to feel this presence I have that I'm building and accumulating. So I'm not sure that they conflict. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
So I feel like sometimes employers aren't supportive of people building their professional brand. So
That's
like
true.
maybe that's what she meant.
Okay.
And I, unless you sign something from your company that, and I've had to do it in the past. I've had to stop all social media activity because of the liability associated with the industry that I was serving.
Yeah.
And unless you sign something like that, it's okay to talk about yourself. And a lot of times, what people do is have a caveat, like in their about section, that says, my opinions are that of my own and not a representation of my organization, like that
Okay.
caveat in there. Um, so, I mean, I think both me and Jessica have put a lot of intentional work into building our brand. We've
Hmm.
probably had to do a lot of self reflection, a lot of self healing, a lot of clarity work for ourselves to better serve our people. Because what happens is, if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one. So you have to
Yep.
truly know who your dream client is, because we're both coaches, we're both resume writers. You have to truly understand who you are to understand who your dream client is, and that's who our content is for. So Jessica, for example, when you head on over to her content, she's bold, she's in your face, she's funny, she uses sarcasm, and she calls it like it is. And if you go to my Facebook profile, that's me all day. But on LinkedIn, I have a little bit of a toned down brand.
Yep.
And so, like a lot of times we call it code switching. So if you are in one environment, you might tweak the way you communicate or the things that you share to not conflict between responsibilities. So, like, I know if I'm around grandparents, I will not curse, even
Yeah.
though I really enjoy dropping the F bomb. And
Facts.
so sometimes, you have to know your audience, or like, and words are so powerful that when you're building your brand, there's ways that your vibe attracts your tribe. And so
Yeah.
if you feel like something that you genuinely believe in is going to conflict with another responsibility that you have, do you want to hold on to that responsibility, or is that belief so strong, or can you mute that belief a little bit? Like when Roe versus Wade became overturned, there was a lot of people who were really outspoken about their political beliefs, their religious beliefs. And for me personally, I'm okay with other people having other beliefs.
Yep.
And there's tact in it. So when someone, my son's in the background, and somebody said something on one of my posts about how disgusting it was that I had a biracial child. That right there, freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. So his ass got chewed out.
Right.
But if
Right.
somebody else is going to say something that, hey, I believe that it should be up to the states to decide versus the federal government, okay, that's your choice. I move along
Right.
about my day. And so sometimes conflicts can happen in the weirdest ways, right? And you have to confidently own who you are, who your brand is, to determine, do you want to chew this person out, or step forward and say, not today? Is it worth that? Or do you move along? Is it worth sharing, or do you focus on a different topic? So Jessica, how do you decide what content you're going to share, and how to navigate that between potentially who could be offended, or who will take it and be like, yeah, she is my cup of tea?
Right. So you hit on a lot of amazing points. The first one I want to touch on is code switching. So as a professional who is biracial, I am Black and Mexican. So you are going to get best of both worlds from me. You will not see anything different across all of my platforms, because that is my choice. You made it very clear. If your platforms have different personalities, your platforms, Facebook, my auntie is on Facebook. So
Dogs and puppies all day.
Right. But what I decided when I did quit corporate, it was really important for me to have my voice again. Because in corporate, it's stripped away, or was stripped away. Not anymore, because now you do what I say. So as a professional who's built her brand for big hair, for wearing her vitiligo everywhere, it took a lot of confidence to say, you know what, you're going to get this across all platforms. You're going to get the in your face. I'm going to tell it like it is. And in the back of my mind, when I do have people who, I am not your cup of tea, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. I don't want to be liked by everybody.
Yep.
If I can help you, absolutely, more power to it. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, you can't whoop me. So I'm going to go ahead and say what I need to say. You could take it how you need to take it. But as professionals, as adults, you have to recognize for every action is a reaction. Yeah. So are you prepared for the reaction that you're getting ready to set forward? And if you're not, you have to consider what your brand is going to be. You have to consider how you receive feedback, because just like you say, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Everybody does not like Point blank. Same here. It's an energy exchange, right?
Yeah.
So you know who is going to say, you know what? I'm going to walk around, wear my natural hair. I'm going to feel comfortable, confident, wear a Nike hoodie, and be okay.
Yeah.
You have to set your value. You have to set your tone. And as long as it makes you feel good, you know you're not hurting anybody. Build your brand necessary to align with who you are.
I totally agree. Can we go back though to what you said about how you felt your voice was stifled in corporate? Yes. And because the majority of the people we work with are corporate professionals. They don't want to be an entrepreneur. I do not recommend being an entrepreneur, y'all. This is hard.
You got to be a little crazy, just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, let's leave it at that. But in corporate, it is incredibly difficult with the mixed signals, the difference in generational expectations. How do we, as corporate professionals, get
Yeah.
a little bit bolder, a little bit more confident in our voice so we don't feel like we can't show up as ourselves every day?
Well, even in corporate spaces that we've been in, there's an age gap with a lot of us in leadership.
Yeah.
So the way that we will speak is not the same way that some of these people who sit on the
The
leadership
board.
board and the stakeholder, board. But again, it goes back to delivery. You may not like how I said it, but as long as you get the content of my information, it's okay. Having been in corporate for a long time, the only job that really gave me a voice was when I worked at the San Francisco Education Fund. And they made it a point to have everybody speak. They made it a point that you got up front and you spoke how you felt. They made it a point to give you feedback. So when you were communicating challenges or things that you needed to overcome in that role, you felt comfortable. So it's important to have a team, a manager, or somebody in leadership who, and you said it earlier, who will hold you accountable, who will give you the space and platform to speak up, and then encourage you to go do it again and do it another time. Now say it one more time so I could feel it.
And not all companies, not all leaders are going to be that organization for you, that person for
Yeah.
you. And so, as corporate professionals, we have to be intentional about where we choose to stay,
Yes.
because every we spend so much time at work that it trickles over into our home life, into our communities. And so
Yeah.
if you're currently in a toxic environment where you feel like you can't be your authentic self, if you're currently in an environment where someone is not intentionally helping you be a more confident professional, be that continuing education so you feel as though you don't have a skills gap, be that opportunities for stretch assignments so you can be forced to get outside of your comfort zone, be that opportunities to have regular cadences of one-on-ones where you're not talking about what you did from 12 to 12:30, but what it is that you want to do within the next 6 months. And
Yes.
so, if that is the case for you, a couple of things: speak up to your leadership, present them with a SWOT analysis, and say, hey, Jessica, I really value you as a leader and respect what you've been able to cultivate in your career. I've identified some of my strengths and weaknesses, but I really like to help me identify some of my opportunities and threats. So can we set up a one-on-one so you can help me plan out my career and my future here? And if they
Yes.
say no, move on to an organization who does. Intentionally find a company that prides itself on the values that you also pride yourself on.
And you know what, Tegan? Professionals should be doing that every quarter. You need to get feedback. You need to get the leadership perspective. So if you can't do it, then it's easier for you to decide by the end of the year, oh, this is not where I'm going to be next year, or this is
Yep.
where I want to be in the first quarter. So getting that feedback is huge. It's huge. And knowing who is in your culture, who is going to give you that high five or kudo or whatever it is, or raise. Sometimes we don't want high fives. Give me money. I don't care about the high five or kudo. Run me my bag.
Yep.
But you got to analyze it. You got to figure it out. Ask the questions. Hey, give me 30 minutes this week. Can we talk? Here are my problems. Not my problems, but here are the areas I want to address. Let's figure it out. If they're like standoffish, that's all you need to know. You don't even have to ask no more.
Yep, absolutely. So I just realized what time it was,
Oh,
and
shoot.
I want to be respectful of your time, Jessica. So
Shoot.
here's Jessica's information for everybody who's tuning in. Make sure you follow her. She is running a September resume special right now. Tell them about your special.
Yes, absolutely. So this is a September snatch. Y'all know that September is the month to really get out there, put your resume out there and see what opportunities you can snatch. So my job and my passion is to make sure that you will have a snatched finesse resume for $150. That is considerably reasonable.
Yo, that means she's pretty much working for
Free.
free, because think about how long you have worked on your resume, divide that by the hour, and then figure out what that hourly rate is. So
Yes.
let me just put
Think
that out
about
there.
that.
So this is an
Okay.
incredibly generous offer.
Yes. So it's a September snatch. Get out there, snatch those opportunities, build that confidence, and sometimes it starts with your resume.
Yes, it is National Update Your Resume Month. So whether or not you do my 5-day resume writing challenge, which is $7 a day, do Jessica's 150 September Snatch Resume Special, whether you do it yourself, it doesn't matter. But own your confidence. Look back, and this is a perfect way to start taking action from this conversation today. Create a brag sheet for yourself. What have you been able to accomplish since the last time you updated your resume? Go ahead and add those things to it. Add them to your LinkedIn profile. Document them in your annual performance evaluation, because Q4 is here. They're happening. And to make sure that you are ready for your next opportunity, your next promotion, your next stretch assignment, your existing job search. Just a confidence boost of, wow, I was able to do that. And pat yourself on the back, because those steps, those small wins that me and Jessica are talking about, that is how you own your confidence, feel more confident in your abilities, because when you do something and there is a positive result, that proves you just did good at that thing. So it will increase your confidence. So Jessica, how would you, I'm gonna let you end this session today. Well, first, next Friday, I am going to be doing my LinkedIn Live with Bob McIntosh. We're going to be talking about back to work 50 plus. How do you prevent age discrimination in the job search process? So that's going to be fun. Same time next week, Friday, 11 o'clock Central Time. But Jessica, to end this session off, what is your top advice for the fall job seeker? You already identified that September is the best time to look for work. So how do people who want to look for work go about it? What's your best advice for fall job search?
My best advice is to use your network from the inside out. Ask your people who's hiring. Let them know that you are on the hunt and how you can get in contact with their manager, or if you could slide them your resume. The people in your network will be more likely to help you than those that you are scheduling 20-minute coffee chats with.
Yes, totally.
But it's the truth.
It's always great to meet new people. Like, I wouldn't have met you if I didn't connect with you. But yeah, the people that you already have relationships with, go ahead. So thank you so much, Jessica, for joining me. It has been an amazing live. I didn't even realize 45 minutes have passed. For everybody tuning in, thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have, and we will see you next time.
Bye.